Several years have passed since I married my husband. Now, we have a delightful daughter named Holi, who is 5 years old and attends kindergarten. My husband, Kyle, is a serious, meticulous, and responsible individual actively involved in housework and childcare. Kyle's commitment makes him an excellent husband. He is passionate about education and has enrolled Holi in tutoring classes to prepare her for elementary school. One day, as usual, time flew by while we were taking a shower together. It appeared that they diligently review the tutoring lessons every day, and I admired their hard work. However, on this particular day, it took unusually long. I called out towards the bathroom, asking if they were coming out, but received no response. Concerned, I continued calling Kyle and Holi, but there was still no sign of them. Feeling something was amiss, I went to the bathroom and heard sounds that suggested both of them were inside. Wondering if they were playing, I quietly peeked inside and was astonished by a shocking scene. Without hesitation, I rushed to call 911. My name is Michelle, 33 years old, a stay-at-home mom with a 5-year-old daughter named Holi. My husband, Kyle, is 35, 2 years older than me, and works in sales at an electronics manufacturer, where we initially met. Our relationship blossomed due to a coincidental seating arrangement at an end-of-year company party. Despite Kyle's serious and meticulous demeanor at work, our connection grew closer as we exchanged polite conversations. This incident shattered the harmless sense of security I felt towards Kyle. However, as the alcohol started to flow, I saw a more relaxed side of him. "You move so briskly, like a squirrel. You were definitely in some sports club, right?" Kyle's face was slightly red, perhaps from drinking too much. It was refreshing to talk about things other than work for a change. "I was in the basketball club during my school days. The game's not over until you give up. That was my youth," I said, becoming more talkative as the alcohol took effect. "That sounds nice. Youth. I was a bookworm during my school days and didn't do much of anything. I really wanted to join the track team, though." Kyle's expression clouded over for a moment as he looked distant. "But I'm having fun today," he said, swaying slightly. I saw a smile on his face that I had never seen at work. Our conversation broadened, and we got engrossed in chatting. Kyle mostly listened, nodding along, which made me feel comfortable, changing my impression of him. Afterward, we would chat briefly at work and gradually started to dine out privately. It wasn't a lively connection, but the gentle vibe felt right, and we got along well. During one date, I bluntly asked, "Are we dating?" He nervously replied, "Yeah, of course, we're dating." This is how I put an end to our ambiguous relationship. Even when we went out to eat, he would say, "I'm fine with anything, so order what you like," never insisting on his preferences. "Sometimes you should express your own opinion." I would get annoyed. Kyle would hurriedly apologize. Despite being a peacemaker, when he drank, he would often express his inferiority complex about education, saying, "Tim from sales is from a prestigious university. It really makes a difference. He's genuinely brilliant. Compared to him, I'm nothing." Each time, I would reassure him, "From my perspective, you are more than respectable." But Kyle would retort, "Michelle, you don't understand at all," and get angry. I was surprised by this side of Kyle. As I calmed him down from his drunken state, our relationship has been smooth, without any significant arguments, and we've been getting along well. After dating for 3 years and feeling like it was about time, the topic of marriage came up. For the marriage introduction, we decided to visit my husband's parents, but it seems he's not too fond of them. He was hesitant to introduce me. Both of my husband's parents were civil servants, and he has an older brother who seems to be doing research at a university. Thinking my husband grew up under such earnest parents made me realize why he's so serious, though there seems to be some discord with his parents that I don't understand. On the other hand, my parents run a restaurant and never nagged me about studying, always saying health is the most important. I'm grateful for being raised freely under my father's philosophy. I had the freedom to choose my path and ended up graduating from a community college. Despite our different family backgrounds, we smoothly got married without any objections from our parents. After marriage, we both continued to work, and my husband actively helped with household chores. While I handled cooking and laundry, he eagerly took on the task of sorting the trash, which was a huge help. People say I'm a bit careless and not good at meticulous tasks, but nicely put, I'm broad-minded. On the other hand, my husband is meticulous, always concerned about whether the trash is properly sorted. I thought we made a good couple, complementing each other's shortcomings. Soon after we had a child, my husband was overjoyed, touching my stomach and expressing his desire to raise our child with care, aiming for them to become a Harvard graduate, or maybe even a doctor or a minister. His over-the-top remarks made me laugh, assuring him that they would undoubtedly be smart like him. During the pregnancy, he bought classical music CDs, claiming they were good for prenatal education, and talked to the baby in my belly, showing how attentive he was. Moreover, he did everything to prevent me from getting stressed, emphasizing its potential harm to the baby. I was a bit worried about him trying to handle everything on his own after giving birth. My husband was against me continuing to work after childbirth, emphasizing that we should prioritize our child. However, I strongly wanted to be with our child. After discussing it with my husband, I decided to quit my job and focus on childcare and housework. He was always agreeable but surprisingly passionate about our child's education. He believed the beginning is crucial, so he wanted to give our child as solid an education as possible. He researched various things himself, bought numerous educational toys, almost to the point of being ridiculous, and started taking our child to music classes designed for infants, an educational method that uses music to develop children's sensitivity and expressiveness. In addition to everything else, we also started attending baby swimming classes, and since these classes required parental involvement, my days became even busier. However, my husband continued to help with housework and took excellent care of our daughter, Holly. She grew up quickly, walking and talking early, and we were delighted to see her thrive. When she turned 2, she began attending piano classes, and Holly continued her lessons without complaint, though she occasionally threw a tantrum about wanting to play in the park all day. Understanding her small size and desire to play, I thought it was okay to let her skip classes occasionally and enjoy herself. Contrary to my thoughts, my husband was already thinking about Holly's next goal when she turned 5. He brought home many elementary school brochures, emphasizing the crucial start. This surprised me, as I hadn't thought about it. He passionately argued about the importance of elementary school, stating that a child's future growth depends partly on their effort, but also on the environment they're placed in. He believed it was our duty as parents to provide the best possible environment. As a result, we decided to do everything we could for Holly's elementary school application. My husband's motivation and high expectations for Holly were apparent. One day, my parents visited to see their grandchild, and as soon as they put down the fruits they brought as a gift, they were surprised to see banners on the wall. Holly's only 5, right? What's with this house? My father looked puzzled. Eat breakfast together. Let them do at least one household chore. Make sure they get enough exercise. My mother read the commandments with a mix of amazement and amusement. Come on, are we aiming for Harvard here? My father joked in disbelief. Look, there's a book here called Elementary School Guide for Admissions. My mother pointed to a pile of books on the living room table. Over here, there's something about projects for elementary school applications. Let them at least enjoy arts and crafts, my dad said, making a gesture of resignation. It seems like each parent has their own image of an elementary school application. But my parents believe it's too early for my daughter. These days are different from the past. Getting used to studying early on is for her own good. Holly isn't doing it reluctantly either. Is that so? Is it that kind of era now? My dad said, looking far away. Talking to my parents about our approach to education, they didn't seem very convinced but left with a just don't overdo it, okay. And so the busy days continued. There were times I thought it might be too much, but Kyle would sternly remind me that we have to be firm as parents for Holly's sake. So I decided to keep at it. Holly goes to a private kindergarten from 9 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. on weekdays. She's made friends and enjoys playing outside, always cheerfully heading to school. The curriculum includes reading and writing lessons. After kindergarten, it's off to tutoring classes daily. To manage Holly's tutoring schedule, I, who used to be a paper driver, have started driving before tutoring starts. Holly eats her snack in the car. How's tutoring? Not too tough, I ask casually. I'm okay. I'm doing it for Mommy and Daddy, Holly said with an untroubled smile, not complaining despite probably wanting to play more with her friends. Thank you. Let's keep at it together, I said, hugging her tightly. At least until the elementary school entrance is over. After that, I thought about giving Holly some time to relax. Kyle would usually try to come home from work on time so that, after I pick Holly up and make dinner, he and Holly could take their shower together, which had become a daily routine. In the bathroom, Holly would excitedly share every new thing she learned, and Kyle would clap, saying, "Brilliant, Holly, you're a genius." Their laughter made even cooking feel lighter. After the shower, Holly would come out, saying, "Daddy praised me," looking very pleased. However, Kyle's work schedule changed due to a department transfer, leading to more late nights. He seemed to carry a heavier expression, brooding over something, especially since Holly's school application. Kyle's demeanor changed. He appeared sincere and kind outside, but revealed a cruel and terrifying side at home. Gradually, these aspects began to surface as the stress built up, and he became more aggressive, even towards Holly. "Kyle, today, Holly." I'd start, but he'd be distracted. "What is it?" "Something that needs to be heard now." He'd respond curtly, clearly irritated. "Oh, by the way, about separating the trash, please try to remember," he'd say in a low voice, suddenly changing the subject. "Sorry, did I mix them up again?" I'd turn around hurriedly. "Geez, is your head filled with trash?" he muttered without looking at me. For a moment, I wondered if I'd heard him wrong, but then I tried to cheer things up by showing him the paper airplane Holly made at kindergarten. "Holly made this paper airplane today. It's well made, isn't it?" Then Kyle crushed the paper airplane in his hand, saying just one thing: "Don't create more trash." It was frightening. There seemed to be a side to Kyle I had never seen before, sending shivers down my spine. Meanwhile, Holly looked on, puzzled. Returning home to increasingly grumpy evenings, Kyle became even more reticent. Occasionally, he'd still take a shower with Holly, but those shower sessions grew longer. When I asked what they were doing, Kyle said they were reviewing for the tutoring sessions, and I admired their dedication. Holly, always eager to please us, would say she's doing her best for Mommy and Daddy. But then she admitted, "Daddy is a little scary. I don't want to shower with Daddy," looking downcast. Both Kyle and I believed in disciplining when necessary, so I assumed she was just being scolded about her tutoring. I would come to regret taking it so lightly later on. One day, as usual, they were in the shower together, and when half an hour had passed without them coming out, I called out, "Aren't you coming out yet?" But there was no response. Maybe they're too engrossed and can't hear me, I thought. I continued calling, Kyle, Holly, but still, they didn't come out of the bathroom. Feeling something was off, I went to the bathroom and heard splashing sounds as if they were both in the tub. Peeking in, I was shocked by the sight. Kyle was holding Holly's head, saying, "You're so poor at this. How many times do I have to tell you? Do you need to be hurt to understand?" He said this with a menacing look. Seeing Kyle like this for the first time, my body froze. "Daddy, I'm sorry. It's all Holly's fault. Please forgive me," Holly said, her small body trembling visibly. "A child like you needs punishment," Kyle said harshly, seemingly oblivious to his surroundings. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me," Holly whimpered, standing petrified in the tub and crying. "You should never have been born," he said, shaking her head violently, continuing to spank her with his other hand. Shocked by the horror before me, I was at a loss for words, but fearing for my daughter, I shouted, "Kyle, what are you doing?" Startled by my voice, Kyle released Holly's head, coughing and gasping. Holly struggled for air, then cried, "Mommy." Holly's cries echoed. Kyle seemed to come back to his senses. But then Holly, in a reflex, kicked him hard in the groin. Kyle, in agony, clutched himself, twisting in pain. Shocked but also spurred into action by Holly's brave response, I quickly dressed Holly, and we left the house immediately, dialing 911. "Please hurry, my husband is abusing our daughter." My hands trembled with rage and fear. Soon after, the police arrived to find Kyle bleeding. He had stabbed himself with a kitchen knife. "Daddy, don't look," Holly said as I shielded her eyes. The police called an ambulance, and Kyle was taken to the hospital. Confused by everything, I reached out to my parents to take care of Holly for a while. Shocked by the news, my parents rushed over. It seemed Kyle acted out of guilt for what he had done to Holly. If I had found out any later, Holly might have been in even more danger. I wondered how long things had been going wrong. The thought was terrifying. Later, I visited Kyle's workplace to sort his belongings and handle procedures. Being at my former workplace, I spoke with a known supervisor. Then, Kyle's demeanor changed after his department transfer, according to a colleague. He was constantly criticized and burdened with impossible tasks by his supervisor. The section chief's public reprimand, so loud that it echoed in the corridors, required others to intervene. Despite Kyle's diligence, he became mentally exhausted under severe stress. This incident wasn't entirely unrelated to the company, and I felt sorry for not taking action sooner. The section chief was later addressed for power harassment within the company. Kyle's struggle with an educational inferiority complex led him to believe his life's outcomes were solely based on academic performance, spiraling him into distress. His strong desire not to let his daughter experience such feelings ended up misfiring in a harmful direction. His parents confirmed he had always been temperamental and difficult compared to his brother, expressing disappointment in him for not meeting their or his brother's standards. Kyle's brother, distinguished parents, and an excellent academic record had always been the standard by which Kyle was judged. Perhaps the words of his in-laws also wounded him. Kyle mentioned being hit on the head or skipped meals for poor test scores. He wasn't allowed to join the sports team he wanted because it would interfere with his studies, leading to a school life dominated by academics. I felt I understood why Kyle was so fixated on educational attainment. Realizing the pressure Kyle faced made me deeply sad, understanding he desired affection above all. Yet I couldn't sympathize with his choice to direct his frustrations towards Holly. Eventually, Kyle was admitted to a psychiatric facility under police watch, showing signs of instability. After discussing with his parents, I decided on a divorce for Holly's sake, wanting to distance ourselves from his family's toxic educational values. I felt I couldn't keep up with the misguided belief that lower education means lesser ability, rooted in an obsession with academic credentials. My parents supported my decision, acknowledging that we need to end this cycle of negativity and prioritize our children's happiness and health. Months passed, and it seemed Kyle had calmed down, but we would likely never meet again. After being discharged from the hospital, Kyle was apparently working and living at a guest house on a distant island. I wondered if there would ever come a day when his emotional wounds heal. Since then, Holly hasn't asked how Daddy is. Perhaps she senses something. Even as a child, there were nights she would suddenly start crying as if remembering something. But now she has calmed down. Holly, as bright and cheerful as if nothing had happened, has even started taking gymnastic lessons on her own initiative. Today, as every day, Holly's spirited voice echoes in the yard. She attends lessons with a proud expression. My father, watching by her side, cheers, "Don't lose with your spirit." "Pump yourself up," echoing a line I've heard somewhere before. I have to be strong too. My daughter's resilience gives me courage. We decided to stop her schooling and are now taking it